This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them lang loji, now you got them bongolo. Long time got them lang loji, now you got them bongolo. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them jug lamp, now you got them electric light. Long time got them jug lamp, now you got them electric light. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. Long time got them broad bottom, now you got them tight straight. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time pulang bukit wata, now you got them overhead. Long time pulang bukit wata, now you got them overhead. Long time pulang bukit wata, now you got them overhead. Long time pulang bukit wata, now you got them overhead. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them ulul man, now you got them yong guy. Long time got the ulul man, now you got them yong guy. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them donkey cat, now you got them DeSoto. Long time got them donkey cat, now you got them DeSoto. Long time got them donkey cat, now you got them DeSoto. Long time got them donkey cat, now you got them DeSoto. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time.
That little ditty we used to torment our teachers with when we were kids goes something like this. Onward, upward, Mary had a go. Day by day she tied it to a rope, till at length they got busty rope, and Miss Mary had to run behind it. We had a lot of fun with that, but do you actually know how beautiful these words are? Here's the Song of Guyana's Children by W. Hawley Bryant. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountains, the sea and the river, great, wide and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be. In the land of Kaijur shining splendor, land of the palm the croton and fern, we would possess all the virtues and graces, we all the glory of goodness would learn. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day, in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be. Born in the land where men sought El Dorado, land of the diamond and bright shining gold, we would build up by our faith, love, and labor God's golden city, which never grows old. Onward, upward, may we ever grow, day by day, in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be.
Good night. Good night. Good night to everyone, and welcome to the Ganesh Mahipaul show on 107.1 FM Benchcop Radio. And I know that you guys missed me last week, but I had some very hectic schedule. I had a very hectic schedule, and it was beyond my control. And I did indicate to the operator and the executive producer that I would be unable. But I was told that I had a very good replacement in the name of Mr. Randy Critchlow, who substituted for me during that hour. And I'm told that he did a fantastic job. But when I was told that, I wanted to see to believe. So I did go back on social media and I found the hour on Benchcop Radio and I listened. And indeed, Randy did an excellent job. So let me take this opportunity in extending thank you to Randy Critchlow for what he did last week in short notice. And he was very, very exceptional and good with what he did. So we need to share the live stream. We need to ensure that we share the live stream so that our viewership can go up and the message of the Ganesh Mahipaul show can reach far and wide. I recognize Don Raymond, but I don't see Don Raymond as a sharer of the live stream. Elaine Charles, you have not shared it either. Precious Mineral, please, thank you for saying good evening. Now do me a good favor and share the live stream. Veronica King, Roxanne Andrews, Denise October. I must say thank you, Precious Mineral. I see you have shared it now. Veronica King, you're yet to share. Linda Hodge, Patricia Nelson. I'm expecting you guys to satisfy that humble request and share the live stream. And you know, as the program was starting, and the producer, the executive producer and the operator was kind enough to play the song of God's children, a very beautiful song indeed. I remember learning this song in primary school. But sad, our primary schools are now not teaching these songs. Or if they are, it is very, very scarce. So I think our first appeal must be to the Minister of Education to recognize the importance of these national songs. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountain, the sea, and the river, great, wide, and deep, in our lives would we be? Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us will show what Guyana's sons and daughters can be. Born in the land of Kaichore's shining splendor, land of palm tree, croton, and fern, we would possess all the virtues and graces. We, we all, the glory of goodness would learn. I don't know. You want to hear me sing the first verse and the chorus? If you want to hear me sing the first verse and the chorus, then you're going to do me a favor and share the live. So to all of you who have not shared the live stream as yet, Janelle Norville, please share the live stream. Everyone who is listening, straight up, good night. Deslin Beckles, Linda Booker. I see Diane Graves Sandy is a top fan, but I don't see an indication that she has shared the live stream. Mary O'Brien, Nigel Chesney, Selena Fraser. I really want us to reach to that magic number because I have two very distinguished gentlemen who will join me. One is from Region 1 and the other is from Region 2. And of course, as you know, I am the Member of Parliament for Region number 3. So it is 1, 2, 3 tonight. And we are going to rumble and we are going to discuss what we have to discuss. Let me apologize to Roxanne Thompson. I see, yes, sir. I shared the live. Thank you very much. Probably because the notification says you're a top fan. I didn't see it. But Beverly Davis, Adele Semple, Sean Barnett, Region 3 in the house. Please, I'm asking you to share the live stream so that we can reach that magic number. Let me give you the first verse and the chorus of this beautiful song, the song of Guyana's children. And you will tell me if I can sing, right? Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of the great rivers and far-stretching seas, so like the mountain, the seas, and the river, great, wide, and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward, may we ever go, day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length where each of us will show what Guyana's sons and daughters can be. I have not done that in ages. I have not done that in ages. And I know that I am not a good singer. So that was just meant for entertainment purpose. But of course, the words in that song means a lot. I don't profess to be a good singer. In fact, all my friends would tell me from time to time, Ganesh, don't sing. Don't do that. Don't do that. We have a good weather. But nonetheless, it's a good song. It's a song with deep meaning, and it means a lot for our country, and it is necessary for all our children to learn that song. And not only that song, there's so many other songs, nation building songs, I would call them, that people should be familiarized with. Now, before I bring my guests on, my two guests, and I trust that both of them are backstage. There are some developments that are happening in Guyana that is worrying. And the first one has to do with this COVID vaccine and the People's Progressive Party wanting to make it mandatory through the back door. It is worrying. Imagine Guyanese who are paying taxes. Guyanese who are paying taxes have to now be imposed onto them the vaccine before they can get public service. Well, let the Guyanese who are not vaccinated stop paying taxes if they are not going to get the vaccine and not getting public service. If by choice, which is a democratic constitutional right in this democracy, we choose not to take the vaccine because of the government's high-handed behavior and the government not wanting to provide information to the population, and the people decide to say, until we can clearly understand about these vaccines, we will not be taking it. If the government is going to say that they are not going to provide public service to those people, then similarly those people should not pay any taxes. It's logical. It is logical. You don't want to give me public service because I choose to do as my constitution allows me to do. Then let me not pay any taxes, because it is my taxes that provide vehicles for you to drive in, fuel for those vehicles. It is my taxes that provide phone credit for you, food for you to eat, and everything that you sit and enjoy in your luxurious office and at the level of the National Assembly comes from my taxes. And that comes from my taxes against my will. It comes from my taxes against my will. But when I choose to do something that the Constitution allows me to do, and that is to express my freedom of choice as it relates to taking the vaccine or not take the vaccine, you are going to tell me that I am not allowed to have public service? Then give me back my tax money. Don't take my tax money. That is logical sense, logical thinking. The demonic PPP has one thing on their agenda: to force down our throats these vaccines. And all we are asking them for is to provide us with the information on the vaccine. Tell us who you got the vaccine from, the transportation that was involved in terms of bringing the vaccines to Guyana, the cost of the vaccines, the efficacy. We want to know if it was kept. We want to know if everything is in order, if it's the proper vaccine, if it is the authentic vaccine. But here what? Let me bring my guests on and let us talk about it. Let's bring on Region 1, the Honorable Ronald Potts, Member of Parliament, and I will like to bring on Mr. Sherwin Holder, Region number 2. Sherwin Holder, Region number 2, Honorable Member of Parliament. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dorette Jackson, Felician, I hope I pronounced that name correctly, Roxanne Drope, Lorraine Stevens, Bernadette Parks, share the live stream. And tonight we're going to have Regions 1, 2, and 3 in the house. Regions 1, 2, and 3. Not sure who's disturbing Ronald, but I need him to be focused. I need him to be focused on the discussion. Good night, Ronald. Good night, Sir.
Good night, Ganesh. Good night to all your viewers. Thank you for having me in your program tonight.
Sherwin, are you hearing me?
Yes, Ganesh. Good night. Good night. Good
Thank
night
you.
to all
Good
your
night. Good night.
viewers also. I'm happy to be here on this program tonight.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. Let us start with this COVID vaccine and this rule that says you are not allowed to get public service unless you are fully vaccinated and can show a proof of vaccination. What is your thought? What is your view on that? If I may start with the region that is closer to me, which is region number 2, and then I will go to the region that is farther, region 1. Sherwin, take the floor.
All right, Ganesh. Thank you again for having me. Ganesh, this decision by the government, as you rightfully said, to uh, attempt to mandatorily force persons to take the vaccine through the back door, as you rightfully said, is very, very disturbing. It's very, very worrisome. And I believe as the minute and hour goes by and persons following social media, following it in the media, learn about this, there is a great outcry, if for the want of a better word, across this country. Everybody is talking about this at the present moment. And I feel that a majority of Guyanese are totally against this. Ganesh, I am not, and you would know, the opposition, we are not against the vaccines. We are not against the vaccination. But I can speak for myself, and I believe I speak for the opposition, the entire opposition. What we will not support is the violation of the constitutional right of the people of Guyana. They have that right to choose, especially in the face of a government that is not providing the kind of information on these vaccines. In light of the grand vaccine fiasco with the Sheikh, we know what happened there when the leader of the opposition broke it in parliament, and they simply crawled back into their shells, produced what I would say some piece of scrapbook paper to say that yes, this vaccine came from so and so place. People don't trust that system. They're not being very transparent. They're not coming clean in terms of information on the vaccines. They're all over the place. One time they're heading west, the other time they're heading east, Ganesh. I look, just a few probably days or weeks ago, the Minister of Health, as incompetent as he is quoted in the media saying that they will not impose any mandatory rule towards taking this vaccine. And just days later, they're trying to do it through the back door. They're trying to do it through the back door, and that cannot be acceptable. You see here, I firmly believe that the public would have uh, bought into this whole vaccination drive if more information was made available, if they were honest, Ganesh, if this PPP government were honest and they leveled with Guyanese, they spoke with the opposition in it. After all, we represent almost 50% of the nation in the parliament. Outside of the parliament, we probably represent more than that. And they are refusing constantly to speak with us. We can have an input in this, but if we ourselves as leaders don't have the kind of information that persons are calling on us every day to ask us about these vaccines, and we don't have the necessary answers and the necessary information for them, then what will they do? What will they, there are serious trust issues with regards to the this PVP government, and especially when it comes to this whole thing of COVID and the vaccine. And now, Ganesh, I must say, I must point out to you that they have mismanaged the handling of COVID. They've mismanaged COVID in its entirety over the last year. And now for their poor performance, for their incompetence, what they did, they first tried to blame the leader of the opposition and then the entire opposition. And now that didn't work. The public didn't buy into that. Now they're seeking to blame the public. They're saying that the public, the unvaccinated ones are most deadly. Irfan is quoted as saying. I'd give my brother Ronald to come in.
Good night, Ronald, and you may add to the discussion, please.
Good night again, Ganesh, and good night to the Honorable Sherwin Holder.
Good night.
And like I said earlier, thank you for having us on your program. Ganesh, let me first of all state that the opposition is not against vaccination, as some people would put it. I recognize some comments from the protest earlier today where persons were saying that the opposition MPs themselves took vaccine and now they're protesting against vaccination. We are not protesting against vaccination. What we're protesting against is the dictatorship or the principle of dictatorship that is imposed on Guyanese by this government. That is what we are not in agreement with. And this comes from the way in which the government has been dealing with issues affecting Guyanese. And obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic is one of them. The government must at all times provide transparency in information. That's one. And you cannot make decision in what we would term a black box, because the information is not out there and you are making decision in a black box. Then obviously, from a political perspective, then you will have conspiracy conspiracy theories where person will be thinking, well, they are not into this and they have legitimate reason. We have to understand that we are politically divided. There are hundreds of thousands of Guyanese who support and you ought to educate the people and allow them to become Ganesh, I also want to say the mandatory vaccination for me infringes on human rights and integrity. So for me, like any other medical intervention, it must be based on the recipient's free and informed consent. Although I see here, let me quote from the European Court on Human Rights. It says, mandatory vaccination interferes with a person's right to integrity, which is protected under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. There is a piece that says the court concluded, however, that the interference may be justified if considered necessary to control the spread of infectious disease, among other things. So you have a piece there that says you are infringing on human rights and integrity. I know that they will grab the other part that says if it's possible and if there's a necessity to control the spread, they might be or they may be. However, what we're saying again is the approach to this. Another issue I have with this is I recognize earlier that the regional administration of Region 1 today put out a notice, a public notice, where all persons who are visiting the regional offices must provide proof of one, identification card, two, their vaccination card. And if you don't have, then you must make an appointment to the office and provide a negative PCR test within 72 hours. Now, there are no places in Region 1 that I know of, especially Mabruma, that do PCR tests except the regional hospital. Where would these people go to get these tests done? That's one. It cannot obviously be done in 72 hours. And we are here speaking about the marginalized, already marginalized people, those that are minority group, those that are considered the less fortunate groups. Some of them don't even have a national ID card. Some of them don't even have birth certificate. But now you are imposing document. So they are more in it than actually objectives. So another thing that I want to say is, like Ganesh, I heard you earlier when you said we pay taxes, and you're telling us that we cannot access government services. Well, then cut the taxes, like you rightly said, because you're asking person to do PCR tests, which may cost their entire salary, and you're asking them to do this every few days, every 5 days. At the end of 2 weeks, Ganesh, at the end of the month, you don't have anything left after paying for these tests. Now, I want to know if the government had seriously thought this through. I don't think they did. They just wake up one morning and said, let's get this done, and this is the avenue we'll take, and they just grab it and run with it. Persons are out there, they are feeling the squeeze, and we must pressure the government to come up with better alternatives where persons can have confidence in them, they have the information, and you have a measure that says, yes, there are certain restrictions, but at the same time, we are not infringing on your integrity, your human rights, and your access to social services in this country.
Thank you very much, Ronald, and thank you very much, Sherwin, for weighing in on that. But you guys looked at it for me from the human perspective in terms of the imposition, and you looked at it from what I will term the undemocratic practice in a democracy. And the question is, of course, do we live in a democracy? And the resounding answer will be no. Democracy died on August 2nd, 2020. And after 1 year, we see that there is now a walking dictatorship among us. But let us turn our attention into a different angle from this stupid decision. Let me, for the benefit of our viewers, inform them, those who would have joined not too long ago. The first thing I want to do is to tell you to share the live stream. You cannot be unfair to come onto the program, look at the program, listen to what is being said, and don't want others to get the opportunity. So share the live stream. Please share it so that the information can reach far and wide. First of all, the government said in the National Assembly through installed Frank Anthony that they are going to bring a legislation to deal with vaccination on this COVID-19. That never came. The vaccine reached to Guyana, the vaccine rollout plan started, no legislation in the National Assembly. As we would say, and as Priya Manikan would say, hypocrites. Then they said that it is not mandatory for people to take the vaccine. They have the choice whether they want it or not. Persons assessed that choice. Some took, some did not take. Some awaited information on the vaccine, some are still waiting on information on the vaccine, while others went ahead and take because they were forced to. This is a government that is imposing itself onto the people. They do not have the support of all Guyanese. Now they have put out a measure that says you who do not have vaccines for the COVID-19, you cannot get public service unless you make some appointment via telephone. In essence, they are depriving people from visiting public service offices to get public service. And I am saying that if that is going to be your move, then similarly, you should refuse accepting taxes from me. Because if you are going to violate my constitutional right by not allowing me to access public service, then I would like you to give me back all my taxes that I've been paying. But let's look at it from a different angle, gentlemen. Let's look at it from the angle of corruption. Guyana doesn't have any high level of accountability when it comes to our dealings. And this is a measure that is going to enhance corruption in the health sector, because people are now going to start to go and think outside of the box and start paying a money for a book. They're going to start paying a money for a blue book. Just how people have paid the police the little bribe not to go to court and not to charge them when they violate traffic rules and regulations. You're going to see how much doctors and nurses now going to be asked to take a little bread to give them the books. Are you agreeing with me, Sherwin and Ronald, that this kind of measure basically facilitates corruption? How do you see it, Sherwin?
Yeah, Ganesh, you're spot on. You're quite right. Look, this is a known corrupt regime. We know the players there. It's the same old PPP. They might have a few new faces in parliament, but essentially it's a highly corrupt individual who moves from being what I would call a piss poor person to a filthy rich individual. And he controls the entire PPP. Every aspect of governance, everything that they do is controlled by one man, who, by the way, is highly, highly corrupt. So you cannot expect anything better from a PPP administration. It's the same thing that occurred for the last 23 years. The same thing that occurred prior to 2015 is exactly what is happening now. And even, excuse me, to my mind, at even greater lengths, even in greater amounts, it's happening right now, Sharon. Look, I sorry for calling you Sharon. I'm so accustomed looking at in the ring. Look, I was called this afternoon by a girl from up the East Coast, and she was complaining bitterly about the government service again. While it's not related to COVID, it's the same. It's essentially the same thing. She would have been there at the one of the ministries from since 7:30 this morning, and she only got through sometime around 3 o'clock, 3:30 this afternoon. And what she said to me is that other persons came in long after her and got through very quickly, because what? They passed a little paper under the table, and that is what this administration likes. We see a total reversal. The same thing is happening at the passport office again. Huge lines. You understand? But certain persons can come at 12 o'clock in the day and leave by 10 minutes after 12. Special persons, as long as you can pass a little paper under the table through the back door. Same thing is happening. There's a big cry with the births and the marriage certificate and the death certificate. People have been complaining that they're now taking months. They applied since in April, and now it's August and they can't get it. But you know what, Ganesh? If you pass a little money to these jagabats, you will get it in a flash. This is the real PPP. That is what they like. So coming back to the point, and the issue of corruption in terms of the COVID, these new measures. Of course, this is a scheme that is planned. They cannot go, look, they chose not to go to the National Assembly with this because they think that the blame would be laid firm at their feet if they attempt to pass some legislation. They know that the opposition might very well reject it and the blame will be laid squarely at their feet. So what they're trying to do is pass it through the back door. Then they will go to their supporters and concoct all kind of propaganda, all sorts of propaganda about it, so that they don't get blamed for it. But people are not stupid, Ganesh. People are not stupid. People are following closely. Look, even if persons at age 60 and 70 are following this program. They're following us. They're watching what the opposition MPs are doing and what we are saying. They're following the news. They're following social media. They know fully well what is going on. And I agree with you. This vaccine passport that they're talking about now, I wouldn't be surprised that persons are already having fake vaccine passport. I wouldn't be surprised. Just a few months ago when we had the election, you had fake ID cards being printed. So a little scribble on a paper to say on the back sheet of some exercise book to say you've been vaccinated or you have what we call a negative PCR test. It's very easy. It's quite easy in this country. We don't have the checks and balances in the system right now under the PPP to ensure that these things are legitimate. And unfortunately, that is how the PPP wants it. If you look at their strategy of governance, they're destroying all the guardrails of democracy. They're destroying every institution that is responsible for ensuring that good governance and transparency and these kinds of things take place. They're destroying them, Ganesh.
You are perfectly correct. Before I bring Ronald in, I want to show you a little headline on Capital News. Let me show you what is it that Capital News carried. And I think it has something to do with what Irfan said. Now have a look at that. It was shared on Capital News 11 hours, well, close to about 12 hours ago because I grabbed it not too long ago. It says President Ali said unvaccinated persons are now as deadly as the COVID-19 vaccine itself. So the COVID-19 vaccine is deadly? Is that what the head of state of our land is saying? That the COVID-19 vaccine is deadly and unvaccinated people are now as deadly as the COVID-19 vaccine? So is this head of state trying to tell us that we must get vaccinated so that we can die? Ronald, make sense of this and tell me what you think about corruption with the COVID vaccine.
Ganesh, you're asking me to do the impossible. I cannot make sense of it.
It could be a setup
I
because
honestly,
the last time when I wanted you on this program, you had bad internet. But somehow today you have
Ganesh,
excellent internet.
Ganesh, it is difficult to make sense of a lot of things that this installed president says on a daily basis. But go ahead, Ronald.
yes, Sharon, you're quite right. I honestly trust that this is
Somebody
an
said,
error on the
Ronald, not
part
to cut you, but somebody said presidents.
yes,
Presidents.
presidents. We heard of many times. So I was saying I honestly hope and trust that this is an error on the part of Capital News. But if indeed the president said that, then that one statement can already rubbish everything that they're doing in the fight against this pandemic. You cannot make such a negative statement and then come to the people and ask them to take the vaccine. So I want to leave it there. Let Capital News confirm or state whether this is an actual quote from the president. But on the part of corruption, Ganesh, I saw someone post on Facebook the other day with regards to mandatory vaccination that the wiser the government or the stricter the government, the wiser the population, something to that effect. And so,
Stricter the government, wiser the population.
yes, and under that, the person posted, look how now or all now um, vaccination card is on sale, something to that effect. So we already know what will happen. Persons will attempt to buy these vaccination cards. Persons in the medical field will fall for these bribe because obviously, one, there is no increase in their salaries. The cost of living has multiplied. Um, Access to government and other social services denied. Then you have no choice but to engage in corrupt practices. So the government is forcing persons to engage in corrupt practices. And we know that corruption existed under the PP government. We know that Guyana was rated one of the most corrupt countries under the international, can't remember what it is right now. But
I think
Ganesh, you
it
know
was
what I'm.
Transparency International.
That's it. Transparency International. It was under the APNU AFC government that Guyana was removed, or Guyana, yes, removed from that ranking. And so we know what the PVP is capable of. We know what happened under them. And so it is only coming back to what has happened before. And so the issue of corruption is not one that we should speculate much about. It is back in practice and it will continue with these kind of approaches and policies of this government. It will expand into more corruption. So we are doomed in the future. That's all I can say.
Ganesh, if I can come in, um, there's something that I saw on Facebook, and it was a caption that said, "Yesterday's heroes are today's jobless persons," or something to that effect. Essentially, what it was, the article was attempting to say is that the nurses, it was making reference to the nurses. Now, the nurses were at front and center when this pandemic came. They were at front and center. They were made to handle COVID patients, be on the front lines without protective gears, without certain things, without even a little pay increase, without certain basic things. And those were our heroes in the first few months of this pandemic. There are a lot of things that they had to figure out for their own selves. But today, with this mandatory policy, vaccination policy that they're trying to impose, many our nurses are going to be on the breadline because we've seen that they've already started to send home certain people. I've seen in the newspaper the maritime staff. I've heard today about soldiers being sent home. Very soon they're going to get to the nurses. They're going to wait a little on the nurses because the nurses are directly in the health sector. So I suspect that they will wait a little on the nurses, but they're going to attempt to send home a number of public servants, persons that are equally on the front line. Not only the nurses were on the front line, teachers were on the front line. Teachers worked their asses off during the COVID time without any vaccines. Now you're telling them that they must take these vaccines. And all sorts of ridiculous explanation Ali is coming up with. And it's not fair. It is totally unfair, and it's totally undemocratic to do these kind of things to these people that would have risked their lives through those very months. And now you're telling them that, look, they're going to be placed on the breadline if they don't take the vaccine.
Thank you very much for that input, Sherwin. You're very accurate. And it is something that people need to pay close attention to and recognize that this government is all about how they can make their money, how they can give their friends, their families, and their cronies monies in their pockets, whether it's through corrupt means or not. Let me turn my attention to cost of living, which is skyrocketing. And I want to show you a comparison between a picture really of a comparison between what is on the billboard being advertised as the fuel price at Guy Oil and what is the actual price that you pay. In that photo, you see the Guy Oil has a sign that says gasoline at $203 per liter. So I drove into this very gas station and I asked the young lady there to fill me up. And she said, okay. And as she was doing it, as she was putting in the gas, and it came up to $6,733, I saw by just looking that I got 32.372 liters. So I said something in look right there, to myself, eh? To myself, I say, something in look right there. So I went on my calculator on the device, the phone, and I divided 6733 by 32.372, and I got 207.9, which is $208 per liter. So we have a situation here where this pump station is selling the fuel for $208 a liter and advertising it for $203 a liter. Now, some may want to say that it is the manager or it is somebody lower down that is supposed to make the change up on the board or what's not. The point is, Guy Oil is controlled by the state. It's a state-owned entity. And I have passed that price at 203 for 3 or 4 days now. So it cannot be that someone forgot to take the price down to 3 and put an 8. I believe that someone above is basically telling the people there, advertise the low price but sell the high price at the pump station. I could be wrong, but I have to draw that conclusion because of how the PPP is behaving. Now I want Ronald and Sherwin to mesh what I've just said with the cost of living, the steep increase of all commodities, whether it's produce or products, whatever you go to the shop for, it has gone up. Tell me what's happening in region 2, Sherwin, and then tell me what is happening in region 1, Ronald.
Okay, Ganesh, you're quite right. And I can refer to that situation that you just explained there. Look, the government, you're right to question it. You're right to question it because the way how this administration operates, they're trying to paint a different picture from what is the reality on the ground. If we listen to Irfan Ali and we listen to Ashni Singh and others, you would believe that in Guyana here we're all doing well, we're all comfortable. You have this resilient economy that they spoke about, this resilience that they spoke about in the last budget that never came. Only it was yesterday we had parliament. They were talking about how many taxes they reduced and these type of things. They're trying to paint a picture that the economy is thriving and Guyanese are not in a bad state. The country is in a very good state. But the reality on the ground, Ganesh, is starkly different. People are crying. People are punishing. Poor people are punishing. You understand me, Ganesh? Look, in region 2, the situation is just as it is all across Guyana. Region 2 is basically the economy there is based on rice. Rice probably being the largest, and a few other agricultural stuff. Other than that, people vend, and that is the basic thing that people do there. And if you walk the market now, if you take a stroll through the Anna Regina market, or any of the market, you will get the sense of a country on the brink of economic disaster. You will get the sense
You
of
sure,
a country
Sherwin?
and its
Sherwin,
people.
are you sure it is not economic dynamism as was promised by the Minister of Finance?
Sadly, Ganesh, it is quite the opposite. People cussing the government every single day. You can't look basic items you cannot afford. You know what? Look, when I go to buy groceries and greens, simple greens, shallot and bora and so in the market, I normally say to the people, how do you guys survive? How do you survive? I am a parliamentarian, and my salary by no means a super salary. Let me make that clear. But I feel it when I have to go. Look, you used to spend at $2,000 at $3,000 at the market every Friday. Now you're spending double and more you're spending, and this is a fact. They cannot run away from that. Things is very, very difficult, especially for the poor people. But somehow they believe that if they come and share this, as one person put it, less than 100 US dollars, 91 US dollars, they feel that that will carry people through the entire year. It will not. That money is finished, Ganesh. That money is finished. Most persons, most parents, most mothers would have taken that $19,000 and buy groceries with it because things tight, and you can't blame them. You can't blame them, and that is the situation. When they shared out that money in Region 2, let me tell you, all the supermarkets and the grocery shops were filled. And I was looking on, and I was sad. I was taken back for a moment, and I was a bit sad because you know what? The children will not benefit from it. But I am by no means I'm blaming the citizens. I'm not blaming them because if things are so tight, then your child got to eat. The people got to eat. So the guys in Region 2, the situation is terrible. There are hardly any jobs. Rice is not doing that well. For the last year, there was a shortage of fertilizer, from what I understand. All of those challenges people got to go through. You had the flooding also in Region 2, where persons lost their entire crops. Persons lost their stuff from their homes. It is very, very difficult. And Ganesh, if they had listened to us, you would recall in 2020 budget, we told them, we studied the measures, we studied their provisions, and we said, look, this thing will not work. Given that you have COVID here and so forth, you had to have certain measures within that budget framework to offset those issues, especially the issue of COVID and the effect it would have had on the economy. You had to do that. Now they had 2020 budget. They didn't listen to us. Man, you can come back in 2021 budget and institute those measures, implement those measures, and call it your own. Nobody would have said, well, it's a new AFC measures because this was a new budget. You could have simply steal the ideas and get it in. But these guys are stubborn. They are stubborn. They think they know it all. They don't want to cooperate with the opposition. And that is the stance that they're taking, a total dictatorial stance, and they're paying the price for it. And unfortunately, it's the people of Guyana who are suffering because they, as you rightfully said, they're in their AC offices their pots and their food baskets are well filled. Their gas, they're getting free gas from the taxpayers, so they don't have anything to worry about, Ganesh. It is the poor class of people that have all everything to worry about.
You are perfectly correct, Ronald.
Yes, Ganesh. Um, Sherwin is, like you
He
said,
hit it on
Ganesh.
the nail.
Yes,
Sherwin hit it on the nail. Hit
yes,
the head of the nail with the hammer.
perfectly. And so in Region 1, there is not much of a difference from the entire scenario that was just described by Sherwin. In Region 1, we the prices of, well, in Region 1, persons mainly engage in subsistence farming, which is to take care of themselves and their household. You have a few who just come to the market, and the market they to sell simple and basic cash crops and provision. Presently, Ganesh, if you go to Region 1 and you go to buy greens or you go to buy what we call seasoning, you got to go there with $5,000 or $10,000, and you're coming back with one plastic bag of items. One. I know the government has attempted or has blamed this on the flood that we had. The flood came, yes. We know the flood affected, but the
Listen,
prices of,
Ronald, prices
yes,
were going up long before the flooding.
that is what I am saying now. That we know that the prices were escalating since this government took office. So it's just convenience that they now find something to blame it on. The Like Sherwin said, in the parliament in 2020, the opposition made several proposals to their budget. And one of those proposals or alternatives to their budget was the increase in public servant salaries. Now, if you had even considered it in 2021, then you had no need to go back to the parliament and ask for 10 billion and X billion of money. Then you come here now to distribute it to the citizens of Guyana, and obviously distribute it in a vindictive and discriminatory manner. Some person gets, some person don't get, some person get more, some person gets less in terms of the hamper distribution, in terms of the 25 COVID cash grant. Some get, some did not get. I don't know what happened to what they call the pink slip. And so those are issues that affect Guyanese now, all because they could not listen to the excellent proposal of the opposition and say, okay, let us implement at least one or two of them. And so we are here now with prices that we cannot afford. I want to make this point that if one cannot have access to nutritious food and access to adequate foodstuff, then it is associated with a reduction in the healthy eating index. And that will cause persons to become ill, to become sick.
Ronald, you sound
And
like a doctor there, boy. Like you have your doctorate or what?
yes, Ganesh, thank you. I did not
I hope it's
attend
that University of
my first.
Iflot you got it from.
No, no, no. I said that I did not attend there. So and so you have,
Look at the university there. Look, that's the University of Iflot, and it's number one graduate,
yes.
valedictorian, University of Iflot.
Mhm. Congratulations to him. Yes.
You
And
know, we
so,
have to find a way. I have to tell my operator and my producer, we have to find a way that when we put up those pictures, it doesn't blank out the persons who are more qualified than the people who are in those pictures. Continue,
yes.
Ronald.
So I was saying, Ganesh, so Now you have compounded the high cost of living, the no increase in public servant salaries, so you don't have that disposable income to offset the high expenses. Now that will be compounded by the inability to have access to nutritious food, which will in the future, if there is no readily available measures to fight these things, then that will be compounded by the development of diseases. An unhealthy lifestyle will increase. Some people might see you looking like the honorable, not the honorable, like His Excellency the President, and they may say that you are healthy, but that is not healthy, Ganesh. That is obesity. And it doesn't necessarily come from overeating or eating too much, and definitely not eating healthy. And so you have diseases that will now be hitting on poor indigenous people in Region 1 because they already don't have the access. Now, it will place a burden on the healthcare sector because they will now develop illnesses. The immune system doesn't have what it takes to fight off simple diseases. You will have malnutrition in babies, especially those that cannot afford. And I don't know if the government and the relevant ministries and ministers look at the entire situation in this way. I guess they don't.
Thank you very much, Ronald. Thank you very much, Sherwin. I did ask you guys for an hour. We went 6 minutes over the time. But let me thank you very much for joining me here on Benchtop Radio 107.1 for the Ganesh Mahipaul show, where we discussed matters pertaining to COVID 19 and, of course, cost of living. Of course, there were many other items that I had on the agenda, but time consumed our period of discussion. But I want to take special time to shout out to all 31 members of parliament of the APNU AFC. I know that all 31 members are doing an exceptional job in terms of representing our constituency and representing our people amidst the limited resources. We have Joseph Harmon, who's the leader of the opposition, and you all will agree with me, both of you, that his guidance has been exemplary in terms of our performance in the National Assembly. He has been allowing us to spread our wings and fly. And he gives us, the young people in the National Assembly, that he doesn't control us, if I may put it that way. He don't vet our speeches. He don't tell us to limit our research. He does not articulate anything of the sort to us that can control the manner in which we present or the manner in which we represent. So let me thank Honorable Joseph Harmon for his kind, generous, and astute leadership as he guide the 30 other MPs that are with him in the National Assembly. We have, of course, the experienced Ramjatan, Kemraj Ramjatan, with 29 years of service in the National Assembly. He is very, very astute. He knows the books. He participated in certain changes that occurred over the years, the standing orders and other doctrines of the National Assembly. He played a vital role in those steps. So, in terms of institutional memory, we have him there to solve that purpose. And also, he's representing the ministry, or shadowing, I should say, the Ministry of Agriculture. So if there are many people that have issues pertaining to agriculture and they would like to seek some representation or provide some information, feel free to make contact with Kemraj Ramjatan. Of course, we have our learned attorney at law and senior counsel Royce Ford, who is our shadow minister of legal affairs and attorney general. Of course, he is also equally guided by the many other attorneys on the bench with us at the National Assembly. Raphael Trotman is an exceptional individual when it comes to providing guidance to us, the young people. He served before as Speaker of the National Assembly, so he's equally versed and understand what is going on. We have Dawn Hastings Williams, all the way from region number 7. She's representing her region in region number 7 and doing a fantastic job also. That's the young lady that came from Kako So those of you who don't know where is Kako, it is a place that is not frequently visited by government ministers or even presidents. In fact, if my memory serves me correct, I heard villagers from that area said the only president that ever visited their area was President David Granger. And the only minister that they really had behind them representing their cause was Minister Don Hastings Williams. Of course, Nicolette Henry has a phenomenal track record in the education sector, producing children that have given us excellent results at National Grade 6 and CXC. She was leading the education system in a direction where young people would have guaranteed themselves an uplifted education status. But of course, now we have the famous Hippocyte. Dr. Karen Cummins, she's also equally qualified in the medical field, and Dr. Cummins has been doing a fantastic job, especially in this COVID pandemic, in terms of providing information and giving us guidance on what is actually necessary. We have Tabitha Sarabu Hali, a former Minister of Public Service also. Geeta Chandan Edmond. Well, Geeta Chandan Edmond is a phenomenal woman. She is the behind the scenes lady. Behind the scenes, I mean, she is the one that is behind most of our research, most of our letters, most of our documents, most of our bills and motions and those kinds of things. She is behind most of them. Of course, we have Christopher Jones, a front runner in the public space, and at Ferguson in the public space also. David Patterson gives us guidance in public infrastructure. Coretta MacDonald, very versed in labor and also the teaching issues. Kathy Hughes, an internet wizard. Amanza Walton Desir, tall and beautiful, and she's very, very versed in international relations. Hemraj Rajkumar in the legal fraternity. Natasha Singh Lewis, Human Services and Social Security. Juretta Finance, young and beautiful from Bartica also, and we know that she is very good at what she does. Well, Sherrod Duncan, popular in his own rights, in the ring, out the ring, ringside, we know Sherrod there. And then Vincent Henry from Region 9, of course yourself, Ronald Cox, Region 1, teacher by profession, and a proud representative of the people in region number 1. And for those of you who don't know where Ronald is from, it's Imbatero. So if you don't know where Imbatero is, it's very, very close to Venezuela. So, Ronald, I think a day you will have to take us to walk in Imbatero. Sherwin Holder. Sherwin Holder is a mixed breed. That is what I call him. Sherwin's mom, I think, is an Indian and his dad is an African. So he is a mixed breed. So he represents Guyana, if I may put it that way. And he is married to an Amerindian or an indigenous. And if you see his children, they're very, very beautiful. So Sherwin is a mixed breed all by himself. He represents Guyana. In that one individual, that is Guyana. Of course, I am MP for region number 3. Natasha Nima Flubes, we have in region 4. Maureen Philadelphia. Ricky Ramsaroop. Vince Roy Jordan, region 5. Dineshwar Jaiprashad, Pandit. Pandit Ji, the man that loved the aloo. He was everything with aloo curry, aloo choka, aloo, everything he could eat. But he's very, very good at representing the community of region number 6. Richard Sinclair from region 8, and 2 phenomenal gentlemen, Jormin Figueira and Devin Sears from region 10. I deliberately went through the list of members of parliament so that our viewers and listeners can understand that Guyana captures the APNU AFC captures the entire Guyana. We did not select our MPs from Georgetown and put them to represent no region. Ronald lives in region 1. Sherwin lives in region 2. Vincent Henry lives in region 9. Don Hastings Williams lives in region 7. Richard Sinclair lives in region 8. Jermaine and Devin Sears lives in region 10. We have actually put people who are from the area to represent the people. You know who for the PPP represents region 1? Do you know who for region represents region 1? Colin Crowell. He doesn't even live in region 1. You know who represents the PPP for region 2? Dharam Lal. He doesn't even live in. You know who represents the PPP for Region 3? Priya Manik Chan doesn't even live in Region 3. These people are only centered around themselves. They are centered around that small cluster, that small team, and they impose themselves onto the Guyanese people. They are, as what Sharad would say, jagabats, or some would say cantankerous kavakamites or nakavakamites, however you want to put it. They do not have the interests of the people of Guyana. And it is clearly displayed in the way they have selected their representation from across this country. When you hear a place like Imbatero that Ronald is from, and he also travels through Maruka, through Mabaruma, through Matthews Ridge, through the entire region one, Barima Winey region. He can tell us about those communities. Colin Crowell can't do that. When you hear Don Hastings from Kako, a village in the upper Mazaruni, you can't have Gail Teixeira telling us about Region 7, but she's the representative the PVP has put there. Gail, what does Gail know about Region number 7? Vincent Henry is our rep for Region 9. He is from Shulinab. So I'm saying that to tell all the people who are listening and the people who believe that the coalition MPs are not doing enough, then you don't know what the coalition is doing. And you just believe that you can say as you please because it suits your interests to say that. But I am telling you, all 31 of the coalition MPs are hard workers. They are extremely hard workers. I can tell you what they do because I see what they do. I am the opposition chief whip acting. And if I tell you they're doing the work, believe me, they are doing the work. In fact, there is no other opposition that came out from the APNU, AFC, PNC, AFC, WPA, PEP, none that came out with a limited resource that is more active than this 31 set that we have from the APNU, AFC. So thank you guys for continue to standing up to these crosses that we have to deal with. Thank you guys for standing up to deal and represent the people of this country. And if nobody salutes you, know that I salute you. Know that Mark Benchcop salutes you. Know that the viewers of 107.1 salutes you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Folks, it has been good spending the last 1 hour and 17 minutes with you. I would like to encourage you to sanitize, mask up, pay attention to the COVID-19 rules. Let me take the opportunity to big up our representatives in the Tokyo Games, the Olympics that is going on in Jamaica. And let me extend congratulations to them because I know they're doing exceptionally well. And I want to also say that Guyana loves all of our participants there, and they're doing a fantastic job. I want to also take the opportunity to shout out all our viewers, all our diehard viewers who are here on Benchcop Radio. And I want to say to you, continue to social distance, continue to wear your face mask, continue to sanitize, and continue to be peaceful citizens in your respective domain as we fight for a better Guyana for all our children. Good night and God bless.
This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them lang loji, now you got them bongolo. Long time got them lang loji, now you got them bongolo. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before.